Hey there, welcome back. I'm here to help you unwind and relax tonight. I know many of you listen to these stories as you drift off to sleep. Before you get comfortable, feel free to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always enjoy hearing from you. Now, settle in. Story 1. The phone rang at exactly 3:03 a.m. Aham didn't move. It rang again. And again. He stared at the ceiling, heart beating slower than it should. Because something felt wrong. Not the time. Not the silence. The feeling. Like the room wasn't empty. The ringing stopped. A breath escaped his chest. But then the phone vibrated. A message. Aham slowly turned his head toward the nightstand. The screen glowed in the darkness. He reached for it. Hesitated. Then picked it up. Unknown number. One new message. He opened it. And froze. Don't answer the next call. Aham frowned. What? Before he could think, the phone rang again. Louder this time. More urgent. His eyes dropped to the caller ID. And his blood turned cold. Calling. Aham. His own name. His own number. Calling him. No, he whispered. The phone kept ringing. He should ignore it. The message was clear. Don't answer. But curiosity, that dangerous, human instinct, started creeping in. What if it was a glitch? A spoofed call? A prank? The phone rang again. Then suddenly, it stopped. Another message appeared instantly. You answered last time. Aham's stomach dropped. What last time? His fingers hovered over the screen, typing slowly. Who is this? 3 dots appeared. Typing. Then, you. Aham felt his throat go dry. No, this is stupid. He stood up, pacing the room, trying to shake the feeling creeping into his chest. This had to be a joke. A sick one. His phone buzzed again. Another message. Look at the time. Aham frowned and checked the screen. 3:05 a.m. So, he muttered. Then another message came. You have 58 minutes. A chill ran down his spine. 58 minutes for what? The reply came instantly. Before you die. Silence swallowed the room. Aham let out a nervous laugh. Yeah, okay. Very funny. But his hands were shaking. Because something deep inside him, something primal, didn't think this was a joke. The phone rang again. Same caller ID. Aham calling. The message echoed in his mind. Don't answer the next call. His thumb hovered over the screen. Answer. Or don't. The ringing felt louder now. Almost aggressive. Like it wanted him to pick up. His breathing quickened. Think, he whispered. Just think. If this was real, then answering meant something. Something bad. The call stopped. Another message. Good. You didn't answer. Aham swallowed hard. Okay, he whispered. Okay, I'm playing along. What happens if I answer? He typed. The reply took longer this time. Long enough to make his chest tighten. Then, you hear me die. Aham's heart skipped. What? Another message followed immediately. And then it comes for you faster. A loud thud echoed from somewhere in the apartment. Aham froze. That wasn't from the phone. That was real. Slowly, he turned toward the hallway. Dark. Silent. But not empty. He could feel it now. That same presence from before. Stronger. Closer. His phone buzzed violently in his hand. It's inside. Aham's breath hitched. What is inside? He typed quickly. The reply came instantly. You let it in last time. Something creaked in the hallway. A slow, deliberate step. Aham backed away instinctively. No. Another step. Closer. The phone rang again. Aham calling. His hands trembled. Tell me what to do, he whispered, typing frantically. The response appeared. Don't answer. Don't look. Don't let it see you. The footsteps stopped. Right outside his room. Aham's entire body went rigid. Then, a shadow appeared under the door. Not still. Moving. Like something was standing there. Listening. Waiting. The phone kept ringing. Louder. Sharper. Like it was trying to force him to break. Sweat ran down his face. The shadow twitched. Then slowly, The doorknob began to turn. Aham's heart slammed against his chest. No, no, no. The phone buzzed again. If it opens the door, you're already dead. The handle twisted further. A soft click echoed in the room. Unlocked. The door creaked open slightly. Just enough for darkness to spill inside. And something else. Something that didn't belong. The phone rang again. Aham calling. Aham squeezed his eyes shut. The voice in his head screamed at him. Answer it. But the message, that desperate, terrified version of himself, had warned him. Don't answer. The door opened wider. Slow. Deliberate. And then, something stepped inside. Aham couldn't see it. But he could hear it. Breathing. Not human. Wrong. Right behind him. The phone stopped ringing. Silence fell. Then one final message appeared. It sees you now. A cold breath touched the back of his neck. And a voice, his own voice, whispered softly in his ear. You should have answered. Aham didn't move. He couldn't. That breath still lingered on the back of his neck. Cold. Rotten. Too close. His entire body locked in place, like something deep inside him understood a simple, terrifying truth. If you move, it will react. The room felt smaller now. Tighter. Like the walls themselves were closing in to watch what would happen next. His phone vibrated in his trembling hand. Another message. He didn't want to look, but he forced himself, slowly lowering his eyes. Don't turn around. Aham swallowed hard. Too late for that advice. Or maybe, just in time, because he hadn't turned. Not yet. The thing behind him let out a faint sound. Not quite a breath. Not quite a whisper. Something in between. Like it was trying to remember how to be human. Aham's fingers tightened around the phone. What is it? He typed, barely able to breathe. The response came slower this time. 3 dots. Disappearing. Reappearing. As if whoever, or whatever, was texting him, was struggling to find the right words. Finally. It's you. But not you. A tear slipped down Aham's cheek. No, he whispered. The thing behind him shifted slightly. A foot dragging across the floor. Too heavy. Too slow. Like a body that didn't work properly. The phone buzzed again. It copies. It learns. It replaces. Aham's mind raced. Replaces who? He typed. The answer came instantly this time. You. His chest tightened violently. The air suddenly felt harder to breathe. Behind him, that thing leaned closer. He could feel it now. The shape of it. Almost like a person standing too close. But wrong in ways he couldn't explain. The phone vibrated again. It's learning your voice. Aham's eyes widened. And then, he heard it. Soft at first. Broken. Ah-ham. His blood turned to ice. That was his voice. Distorted. Dragged through something dark and wet. Why didn't you answer? No. Aham squeezed his eyes shut. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But the voice came again. Closer this time. More stable. More accurate. You should have answered. His grip on the phone tightened so hard his knuckles turned white. Another message flashed onto the screen. It's getting better. Aham's breathing became shallow, uneven. How do I stop it? He typed quickly. The reply came instantly. You don't stop it. A pause. Then another message. You survive it. A loud crack echoed behind him. The floorboard. The thing had taken another step. Closer. Aham felt something brush lightly against his shoulder. A hand. Cold. Wet. He almost screamed. But he bit it back. The phone buzzed again. Rule number 1. Don't let it touch your face. Too late. That hand began to slide upward. Slowly. Toward his jaw. His lips trembled. Please, he whispered. The fingers twitched. Then paused. As if listening. As if thinking. The phone buzzed again. Don't speak to it. Aham's breath caught. He had just broken the rule. The hand tightened slightly on his shoulder. The voice came again. Clearer now. Aham. A perfect imitation. I'm you. No. The thing leaned closer, its breath now against his ear. Then prove it. Aham's heart pounded violently. The phone buzzed again. Rule number 2. It will try to make you respond. Don't. His throat burned with the urge to speak, to argue, to scream. But he stayed silent. The thing behind him stiffened, waiting. Then, it laughed. A broken, hollow sound, like something pretending to understand humor. You're learning, it whispered. The hand slowly slid down from his shoulder. Relief flooded through him. Too soon. Because suddenly, the phone rang again. Violent, loud, aggressive. Aham calling. The screen shook in his hand. The voice behind him whispered, "Answer it." Aham's vision blurred. The urge was overwhelming now, like something inside his brain was being pulled toward that button. The phone buzzed again with a message. Rule number 3, if you answer, it replaces you instantly. His thumb hovered dangerously close to the screen. Answer it, the voice repeated. This time, perfect, indistinguishable from his own. You know you want to. Aham shook his head violently. No. The thing went still. Very still. Then slowly, it stepped back. The pressure behind him lifted. The air felt lighter. The presence, gone. Aham collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His phone slipped slightly in his grip. The call stopped. Silence returned. For a moment, everything was still. Then, another message appeared. You passed the first test. Aham stared at the screen, trembling. How many tests are there? The reply came slowly. Too slowly. As if the answer mattered. As if it was deciding something. Then, 3. A cold dread settled deep in his chest. That was 1, he whispered. His eyes scanned the dark room. Empty now. But it didn't feel empty. It felt like something was still watching. Waiting. The phone buzzed again. Rule number 4, it never really leaves. A chill ran down his spine. Then, from the hallway, a soft sound. Not footsteps. Not movement. Something worse. A phone ringing. Aham's eyes widened. That's not mine, he whispered. The ringing continued, echoing through the dark hallway. Slow. Deliberate. And then, a second phone started ringing. From somewhere deeper in the apartment. Then a third. And a fourth. All ringing at once. All with the same caller ID. Aham calling. The message appeared on his screen. Test number 2 is starting. Aham's grip tightened as terror flooded his chest. What do I do? He typed desperately. The reply came instantly. Find which one is real. The lights in the apartment flickered once. Then went out. Total darkness swallowed everything. The ringing grew louder. Closer. Surrounding him. And somewhere in that darkness, something smiled. The darkness wasn't silent anymore. It was alive. Ringing. Echoing. Closing in. Aham stood frozen in the center of his apartment as the sound of multiple phones vibrated through the walls, the floor, even through his chest. Each ring identical. Each one carrying the same name. Aham calling. His breathing became sharp and shallow. How many? He whispered. But he already knew the answer. Too many. The phone in his hand buzzed again. Only one is yours. Aham swallowed hard. How do I know which one? He typed quickly. The reply came slower this time. You don't. A pulse of fear shot through him. Then how do I survive? The 3 dots appeared. Paused. Then disappeared. No answer. Hey, he whispered harshly. Nothing. For the first time since this started. He was alone. Completely alone. The ringing grew louder. Closer. Like the phones were moving. Or worse. Like the walls themselves were carrying the sound toward him. Aham took a slow step forward. The wooden floor creaked beneath his feet. Immediately, one of the ringing sounds stopped. Silence filled that space. Aham froze. What? Then it started again. Louder than before. Right behind him. He spun around instinctively. Nothing. Just darkness. But the ringing was now closer to his back. Tracking him. Following him. No, he whispered. This wasn't random. This was a game. A test. And he was already losing. His phone vibrated suddenly. The screen lit up his face in the pitch black. A new message. You're thinking wrong. Relief hit him like a wave. You're back, he breathed. No response. Another message appeared. Don't chase the sound. Aham frowned. What? It wants you to move. His heart pounded harder. Then what do I do? This time, the response came instantly. Stand still. The ringing intensified. Dozens of phones. Hundreds. All screaming at once. Everything inside him begged him to move. To find the source. To escape the noise. But he didn't. He stood still. Completely still. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The ringing didn't stop. But something changed. It shifted. Subtle at first. Then clearer. Some of the sounds weren't matching. Aham's eyes narrowed. Different rhythms. Different delays. Some rings overlapped unnaturally. Like echoes that shouldn't exist. But one was steady. Consistent. Real. His breath caught. That one, he whispered. The phone buzzed again. You hear it now? A chill ran down his spine. Yes. Don't move yet. The steady ringing continued. Somewhere to his left. But faint. Distant. While the others screamed louder, trying to drown it out. Why can't I move? He typed. The reply came slower this time. Because it's watching you choose. Aham's stomach dropped. It. No response. But then, a new sound entered the darkness. Breathing. Not his. Slow. Heavy. Right behind him again. Aham's entire body went rigid. It's back, he whispered. The steady ringing faltered for a second. Then continued. Still there. Still real. The phone buzzed again. Now move. Aham didn't hesitate. He stepped forward. The breathing stopped instantly. Gone. But the moment he moved, the fake ringing surged. Louder. More chaotic. Trying to confuse him again. No. He focused. Blocked everything out. Except that one steady rhythm. Step by step. He moved toward it. The darkness seemed to stretch. Warp. The apartment didn't feel like his anymore. Too long. Too wide. Like something had changed the space itself. The ringing grew clearer. Closer. His heart pounded harder with every step. Then, he saw it. A faint glow on the floor ahead. A phone. Screen lit. Vibrating. Calling. Aham calling. His breath hitched. That's it. He dropped to his knees, reaching for it. The moment his fingers touched the screen, everything stopped. The ringing. The breathing. The darkness. Silence. Complete silence. Aham stared at the phone in his hand. His reflection stared back at him from the black screen. But something was wrong. The reflection was smiling. Aham wasn't. He dropped the phone instantly. What? The phone buzzed violently on the floor. A new message appeared on his own device. That's not your phone. His heart stopped. No. Slowly, the phone on the floor began to ring again. And the caller ID changed. Unknown calling. The screen flickered. Then, the reflection moved again. This time, it raised a hand. And waved. Aham scrambled backward, panic exploding through his chest. I picked the wrong one. The phone buzzed again in his hand. Run. The phone on the floor suddenly went silent. Then, a voice came from it. His voice. But clearer than ever before. Perfect. You chose me. The screen cracked suddenly. And something inside it moved, trying to come out. Aham turned and ran. The apartment twisted around him. Hallways stretching. Doors appearing where they shouldn't be. Behind him, footsteps. Fast. Matching his pace. You can't run from yourself, the voice called out. Right behind him. Too close. The phone buzzed again violently. You picked wrong. But you're not dead yet. How do I fix it? He shouted. The reply came instantly. There's still one more chance. Aham's lungs burned as he sprinted through the shifting darkness. What chance? The message appeared. Test number 3. A door suddenly appeared in front of him. Standing alone in the middle of nothing. Black. Silent. Waiting. Aham skidded to a stop. Behind him, the footsteps stopped too. Silence again. Then, a whisper. Right behind his ear. You won't pass this one. Aham's hand trembled as he reached for the door handle. The phone buzzed one final time. This is where you find out which one of you gets to live. Aham closed his eyes, took a breath, and opened the door. The door didn't creak. It didn't resist. It opened too easily, like it had been waiting for him. Aham stepped through, and instantly, the world changed. The darkness was gone. But this place was worse. Light flooded the room, blinding at first. Cold, artificial. Rows of mirrors stretched endlessly in every direction. Left, right, ahead, behind. Hundreds, no, thousands of reflections. All of them. Him. Aham froze. What is this? His voice echoed, but not normally. It bounced, multiplied, distorted, like the room itself was repeating him, learning him. His phone buzzed. Test number 3. His fingers trembled as he stared at the screen. What do I have to do? The reply came slowly. Find the real you. Aham's stomach dropped. They all look like me. He turned in a slow circle. Every reflection mimicked him perfectly. Same breathing, same fear, same movements. Or so it seemed. The phone buzzed again. One of them isn't copying you. A chill crawled up his spine. It's copying first. Aham's breath hitched. What does that mean? No answer. The silence in the mirror room felt heavier than the darkness before. More aware. Like every reflection was watching him. Waiting. Slowly, Aham raised his right hand. Every reflection followed. Perfect synchronization. He lowered it. Same result. They're all normal, he whispered. But something inside him said that wasn't true. Something was wrong here. Something subtle. Something easy to miss. He took a cautious step forward. The mirrors stretched endlessly, creating the illusion of infinite space. But then, he noticed it. Far to his left, one reflection moved. Just slightly. Before he did, Aham froze instantly. His heart slammed against his ribs. No. He slowly turned his head toward it. And there it was. Him. Standing among the reflections. But not quite right. Its head tilted. A fraction of a second too early. A slow smile spread across its face. Before Aham's own expression could change. That's it, he whispered. The phone buzzed again. Don't let it get closer. Too late. The reflection stepped forward. Out of sync. Breaking the rules. It shouldn't be able to do that. But it did. The mirrors around it rippled slightly. Like water disturbed by movement. Aham stepped back instinctively. The thing stepped forward again. Matching the distance. Keeping the gap. Its smile widened. You found me, it said. Perfect voice. Perfect tone. Exactly like his own. Aham's throat tightened. You're not me. The thing laughed softly. A real laugh this time. Not broken. Not distorted. Confident. Not yet, it replied. A wave of dread crashed through him. What do you want? The thing tilted its head again. This time slower. More human. To exist. The mirrors around them flickered. Some reflections lagged. Others glitched. Like the room couldn't handle both of them. The phone buzzed again. Only one of you leaves. Aham's breath stopped. What? The thing smiled wider. I told you, it said softly. Only one. His hands trembled violently now. How does this end? The phone vibrated. It has to take your place. Aham's eyes widened. No. Another message. Or you take it. Silence. Heavy. Final. Aham looked at the thing in front of him. It looked exactly like him. Every detail perfect. Even the fear. Except its eyes. They weren't afraid. They were hungry. You don't want to do this, Aham said, his voice shaking. The thing stepped closer. I don't have a choice, it replied. Neither do you. The mirrors began to crack. Thin fractures spreading across the glass. The space was collapsing. Time was running out. Aham's phone buzzed one last time. Rule number 5. It becomes stronger the longer you hesitate. His chest tightened. He had seconds. Maybe less. The thing took another step closer. Now only a few feet away. Just let me in, it said softly. You're tired, Aham. Its voice became gentler. More convincing. I can take it from here. A tear slid down Aham's cheek. It sounded so real. So reasonable. The idea of giving up. Of letting something else take over. It felt easy. Tempting. No, he whispered. The thing's smile faltered. Just for a second. I said no. The mirrors cracked louder now, shattering in sections, the space around them collapsing into darkness. The thing's expression twisted slightly, becoming less human, more desperate. You'll die, it said sharply. If I don't take over, you'll die. Aham clenched his fists. Then I die. Silence. The thing froze, completely still. Then, its face broke, cracking like glass, the smile gone, replaced with something monstrous. Wrong answer. It lunged. Fast. Too fast. Aham barely had time to react. But instinct took over. He stepped forward. Not back. Straight into it. Their bodies collided. The mirrors exploded. Shards flying everywhere. Light shattered into darkness. And for a moment, there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just silence. Then, a phone vibrated. Softly. In the dark. A single message appeared on the screen. Test number 3 complete. A pause. Then, but which one of you passed? A hand slowly reached down and picked up the phone. The first thing Aham felt was silence. Not the heavy silence from before. Not the suffocating kind. This silence was normal. His eyes opened slowly. He was lying on the floor, back in his apartment. The same cracked ceiling, the same dim light flickering above him. Everything looked real. Too real. Aham sucked in a sharp breath and sat up quickly. His chest heaved as he looked around. The couch, the table, the hallway, everything exactly where it should be. I made it, he whispered. His voice echoed slightly in the quiet room. But this time, it sounded normal. No distortion. No delay. Just him. Relief flooded through his body so suddenly it made him dizzy. It's over. His hand trembled as he reached for his phone lying beside him. The screen lit up instantly. No missed calls. No strange messages. Just the time. 3:17 a.m. The same time everything started. Aham frowned. That's not possible. Hours had passed. Or at least it felt like hours. But the clock hadn't moved. A cold unease crept back into his chest. No. He quickly stood up. I'm out. That's all that matters. He walked toward the bathroom mirror. Each step felt heavier than it should, like something unseen was pulling at him. The light flickered again as he reached the sink. Slowly, he looked up. His reflection stared back at him. Perfect. Normal. Relieved. Aham exhaled shakily. See, you're fine. But then, the reflection blinked. A fraction too late. Aham froze. His heart stopped. No. The reflection smiled. Just slightly. But Aham wasn't smiling. A cold wave of horror washed over him. You. The reflection tilted its head. That same unnatural movement. That same thing from before. You chose wrong, it whispered. Aham stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. No, no, no. But you still made it out. The reflection continued calmly. Isn't that what matters? Aham shook his head violently. You're not real. The reflection chuckled softly. I'm the only real one now. The lights flickered harder. The room darkened for a split second. And when the light returned, the reflection was gone. The mirror was empty. Aham's breath caught in his throat. What? Then, from behind him, I told you. Aham turned slowly. And there he was, standing in the doorway. Himself. Same face. Same body. Same everything. But wrong. The eyes again. Empty. Cold. Smiling. You let me out, it said softly. Aham's legs nearly gave out beneath him. I didn't mean to. The thing stepped forward slowly. You don't get to mean things anymore. Its voice was steady. Confident. Human. Too human. The phone in Aham's hand buzzed suddenly. Both of them looked down at it. A new message. It's outside now. Aham's chest tightened. How do I stop it? He typed frantically. The reply came instantly. You don't. The thing smiled wider. I like that answer, it said. Another message appeared. You only contain it. Aham looked up slowly. The thing was closer now. Too close. How? The final message came. One of you has to stay behind. Silence. Heavy. Final. The truth hit him all at once. You're not leaving, Aham whispered. The thing tilted its head. No. A small pause. Then it smiled again. But you are. Aham's breath caught. What? You opened the door, it said calmly. You completed the test. It stepped even closer, now only inches away. So you get the reward. A cold dread settled deep in Aham's chest. What reward? The thing leaned in, whispering in his ear. Freedom. Before Aham could react, the world shifted. Violently. The apartment twisted. Walls bending. Reality breaking. And suddenly, Aham was gone. He opened his eyes. He was standing outside, on the street, in front of his building. The night air hit his face. Cool. Real. He gasped, stumbling forward. I'm out. He turned back slowly. His apartment window stared down at him. Dark. Silent. Empty. Or so it seemed. Then, a figure appeared at the window, looking down at him, smiling, watching. Aham's stomach dropped. It raised a hand, and waved, slowly, mockingly. The phone buzzed in Aham's hand one last time. He looked down. Containment successful. A pause. Then, for now. Aham looked back up at the window. The figure was gone, but the feeling remained, like something inside him had been left behind. Or worse, like something had come back with him. His phone screen suddenly lit up again. Incoming call. Aham calling. Aham's hand trembled violently. The street around him felt too quiet, too still, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for his next move. The phone kept ringing. Aham didn't move. The screen glowed in his shaking hand. Aham calling. His throat went dry. No, he whispered. He had just escaped. He had just gotten out. So why? Why was it still calling him? The ringing stopped. Silence returned to the empty street. Too quiet. Too still. Aham slowly lifted his head. The streetlights flickered faintly above him. The buildings around him stood dark and lifeless. No cars. No people. Nothing. Like the entire world had paused. Waiting. His phone buzzed again. A message this time. You shouldn't have ignored it. Aham's chest tightened. I thought I left you behind, he typed quickly. The reply came instantly. You did. A pause. Then, but you didn't leave empty. A cold wave of realization crept through him. No. His reflection. The smile. The slight delay. It wasn't gone. It was. Inside him. His breathing became uneven. What did you do to me? The three dots appeared, then disappeared. No answer. The wind picked up suddenly. Cold. Sharp. It rushed past him, carrying a faint sound with it. A whisper. Familiar. His voice. Pick up. Aham spun around. Who's there? Nothing. Just the empty street. But the whisper came again. Closer this time. You should have picked up. Aham backed away slowly. This isn't real. His phone rang again. Louder than before. Violent. Demanding. Aham calling. His hands trembled as he stared at it. Every instinct screamed at him not to answer. But something deeper, something inside him, wanted him to, needed him to. Don't, he whispered to himself. The ringing grew louder, more aggressive, like it was getting angry. Answer me, the whisper hissed. Aham squeezed his eyes shut. Stop. The phone vibrated violently in his hand. Then suddenly, it stopped. Silence again. Aham slowly opened his eyes. His breathing was ragged, unsteady. I'm not playing this anymore. He turned and started walking down the street, away from the building, away from everything. Each step felt heavier, like the ground itself was resisting him. But he kept moving, faster now, determined. I'm done. The street stretched ahead endlessly. Too long, too empty. Something wasn't right. His footsteps echoed louder than they should. And then, a second set of footsteps joined them. Behind him, perfectly in sync. Aham froze. Slowly, he turned his head. Nothing. No one. But the moment he faced forward again, the footsteps resumed, right behind him, matching him exactly. No. His heart pounded violently. He started walking again. The footsteps followed. Same rhythm. Same pace. He sped up. They sped up. He stopped suddenly. So did they. A cold sweat spread across his skin. It's not behind me. The realization hit him like a punch. It's me. The phone buzzed again. A new message. You feel it now. Aham's hands shook violently. Get it out of me. The reply came slowly this time. It doesn't want to leave. His breathing became shallow. What happens if it stays? The 3 dots appeared. Paused. Then, you disappear. Aham's heart stopped. What? Not all at once. Another message. Piece by piece. The street lights flickered violently now. The shadows around him twisted, stretching unnaturally. And then, his shadow moved. But not with him. Aham froze. Slowly, he looked down. His shadow stood still, while he was breathing, moving, alive. No. The shadow tilted its head. That same unnatural motion. Then it took a step forward, out of sync, breaking away from him. Aham stumbled backward. This can't be happening. The shadow stretched upward, rising, forming, taking shape, until it stood in front of him. A dark version of himself, featureless, but smiling. I told you, it whispered. You didn't leave empty. Aham's entire body went numb. You're inside me. The shadow shook its head slowly. No. A pause. Then, I'm replacing you. The world around them seemed to dim, like the light itself was being drained. Aham's vision blurred slightly. His body felt lighter, weaker. No. The shadow stepped closer. Every step it took, Aham felt something slip away. A memory, a feeling, a piece of himself. What are you doing? Becoming, it replied simply. The phone buzzed one last time. Aham barely had the strength to look at it. Final warning. Another message appeared. If it fully separates. A pause. Then, you won't exist anymore. Aham's knees nearly buckled. The shadow was only inches away now. Reaching out, its hand inches from his face. Let go, it whispered. You're already fading. Aham's vision darkened at the edges. His thoughts slowed. His body felt distant, like he was slipping out of himself. But deep inside, something fought back. A spark. A refusal. No, he breathed. The shadow paused. Just for a second. I said. Aham clenched his fists. No. The air around them cracked violently. The shadow flickered. Distorted. Unstable. You don't get to take me. The shadow's smile faltered. For the first time, it looked unsure. And in that moment, Aham moved. Not away. Forward. Straight into it. The world exploded into darkness. Sound vanished. Light collapsed. And everything became nothing. A phone rang. Somewhere far away. Or maybe, right next to him. There was no impact. No pain. No sense of falling. Just stillness. Aham opened his eyes, and immediately wished he hadn't. There was nothing. No ground beneath him. No sky above him. Just an endless stretch of dark gray emptiness. Not black. Not light. Something in between. Like a place that didn't fully exist. He tried to move. His body responded, but slowly. Like he was underwater. Or worse. Like he wasn't fully there anymore. What is this? His voice didn't echo. It didn't travel at all. It just stopped. Dead. A cold realization crept into his mind. I didn't win. I didn't lose either. Something shifted in the distance. At first, it was nothing more than a ripple. A disturbance in the stillness. Then, shapes began to form. Doors. Dozens of them. Floating in the emptiness. Each one different. Old wood. Metal. Glass. Some broken. Some pristine. All of them slightly open. A faint light spilling through the cracks. Aham's breath caught. What are those? His phone vibrated in his hand. He hadn't even realized he was still holding it. The screen lit up. Welcome to the in-between. His chest tightened. In between what? A pause. Then, between you and it. Aham looked back at the doors. A sick feeling settled in his stomach. Those are choices. The phone buzzed again. Fragments. Another message followed. Versions of you. His heart began to pound. No. Yes. Aham froze. That voice. It didn't come from the phone. It came from behind him. Slowly, he turned. And there it was. The shadow. But different this time. Clearer. More complete. It had a face now. His face. Perfect. Smiling. You're persistent, it said calmly. Aham clenched his fists. You didn't take me. The thing shrugged slightly. You didn't let me. A pause. Then. So now we're here. Aham glanced at the floating doors again. What is this place? The thing stepped beside him. Calm. Relaxed. Like it belonged here. This, it said, gesturing around them, is where decisions go when you refuse to make them. Aham's stomach dropped. I made a choice. The thing smiled slightly. No, it replied softly. You resisted one. Silence. The words hit harder than anything before. Aham looked at the doors again. Each one pulsed faintly. Alive. Waiting. What happens if I pick one? The thing's smile widened. You become it. A cold chill ran down his spine. And if I don't? The thing tilted its head. Then I do. The air around them shifted slightly. The doors flickered. Some began to close. Others opened wider. Time was moving. Even here. You're running out, the thing added quietly. Aham's breathing quickened. He stepped toward the nearest door. Old wood. Scratched. Familiar. He reached out slowly and pushed it open. Light flooded out instantly. Blinding. And then, he saw it. A memory. Him. Younger. Laughing. Standing with his family. Alive. Happy. Before everything went wrong. Aham's chest tightened painfully. I remember this. The thing appeared beside him again. Of course you do. A pause. But that version of you doesn't exist anymore. The light flickered. The memory began to distort. Faces blurring. Voices warping. The scene collapsing. Aham slammed the door shut. Breathing hard. They're not real. They were, the thing corrected. Once. Aham stepped back, looking at the endless rows of doors. How many are there? The thing chuckled softly. All of them. Aham's mind raced. There's to be a way out. The thing leaned closer. There is. Hope flickered briefly inside him. How? The thing smiled. Let me choose. Aham's expression hardened instantly. No. The smile faded slightly. You're exhausting, it said quietly. The doors around them began to shake. Violently now. Opening. Closing. Flashing different versions of his life. Different choices. Different outcomes. Some better. Some worse. Some unrecognizable. Aham grabbed his head. It's too much. The voices began to overlap. Hundreds of them. All his. All calling out. All pulling him in different directions. Make a choice, the thing whispered. Or I will. Aham dropped to his knees. His vision spinning. His thoughts fragmenting. I can't. Yes, you can. The thing's voice was right beside his ear now. Soft. Persuasive. Just stop fighting. Aham's body felt heavy. Tired. So tired. Maybe it was right. Maybe this was pointless. Maybe. His phone buzzed suddenly. Sharp. Cutting through everything. The noise. The voices. The chaos. He looked down at it weakly. A single message. There is one door it cannot enter. Aham's breath caught. What? The thing froze. Just slightly. For the first time. It looked concerned. Aham forced himself to stand. There's a way. His eyes scanned the endless doors. They all looked the same. The phone buzzed again. It's not a memory. Another message. It's a choice you haven't made yet. Aham's heart began to race. A door that didn't exist yet. A future. A possibility. The thing stepped forward quickly now. Don't, it said sharply. But Aham was already moving. Walking deeper into the endless space. Searching. Ignoring the noise. Ignoring the fear. Looking for something that wasn't there. Yet. And then, he saw it. At the far end of nothingness. A door. Different. Completely blank. No handle. No frame. Just possibility. The thing's voice turned cold. You don't know what's on the other side. Aham didn't stop. That's the point. The thing lunged forward. If you open that. Aham reached out and touched the door. The world shattered. Everything collapsed into light. And for the first time, the thing screamed. Light. Endless. Blinding. All-consuming light. Aham couldn't breathe. Or maybe he didn't need to. His body felt weightless. Like he had been erased. And rewritten at the same time. A sharp ringing filled his ears. High-pitched. Unstable. Then, silence. He opened his eyes. And immediately knew. Something was wrong. He was standing. In the middle of a street. Daylight. Bright. Warm. But empty. Completely empty. No cars. No people. No sound. Just a perfect, frozen world. Aham turned slowly. The buildings looked normal. Too normal. Like a photograph of a city instead of a real one. His heart began to race. This isn't right. His voice sounded clearer. Stronger. More grounded than before. He looked down at himself. His hands. Solid. No flickering. No fading. I made it. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. The phone in his hand buzzed softly. Aham froze. Slowly. He looked at the screen. No caller ID. No name. Just a single message. You chose. He swallowed hard. Yes. A pause. Then. So did it. Aham's chest tightened instantly. No. He turned quickly, scanning the empty street. Where are you? No response. Just silence. Heavy. Oppressive. Like something was watching him. Waiting. The air shifted slightly. Subtle. But wrong. Like the world had just adjusted itself. Aham's breathing slowed. Careful now. Focused. If you're here, show yourself. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a door appeared. Right in the middle of the street. Out of nowhere. Standing alone. Impossible. Aham stared at it. That wasn't there before. The phone buzzed again. It followed you. Another message. But not completely. Aham took a slow step forward. What does that mean? No reply. The door stood silently ahead of him. Waiting. Different from the others. This one looked real. Solid. Like it belonged here. Unlike everything else. Aham approached it cautiously. His reflection appeared faintly on its surface. But something was off. Again. Always something. The reflection wasn't matching him perfectly. Its breathing was slower. Calmer. Controlled. You're still here, Aham whispered. The reflection smiled. You brought me. Aham clenched his fists. I didn't choose you. The reflection tilted its head. You chose uncertainty. A pause. That includes me. The door creaked slightly, opening on its own. Just a crack. Darkness inside. Not like before. This darkness felt alive. Hungry. Aham took a step back. What happens if I don't go through? The reflection's smile widened. Then I do. The air grew colder instantly. The light around him dimmed slightly. The world reacting. You don't get control here, it continued. You only get choices. Aham's mind raced. Every option led back to the same thing. It. Always it. There has to be another way. The phone buzzed again. A new message. There is. Hope flickered. How? A pause. Then. Don't choose at all. Aham froze. What? The reflection's expression changed instantly. Subtle. But there. Tension. For the first time. It didn't look completely in control. That's not possible, it said quickly. But Aham was already thinking. Fast. If I choose the door, I let you in. If I don't, you take over anyway. His breathing steadied. So what happens if I refuse both? Silence. The reflection didn't answer. That was enough. Aham stepped back. Away from the door. Away from the reflection. I'm done playing your game. The world trembled slightly. Unstable. The reflection's smile faded completely now. You don't understand what you're doing. Maybe not, Aham replied quietly. But neither do you. The door began to shake violently, the darkness inside it spilling outward, crawling across the ground like liquid shadow, reaching toward him, demanding a decision. Now, choose, the reflection snapped. Aham closed his eyes and stood still, completely still. No movement, no reaction, no fear, just nothing. The darkness surged forward, then stopped, right at his feet, frozen, confused. The world glitched violently around him, buildings flickering, sky tearing, reality itself struggling to respond. You're breaking it, the reflection whispered. Aham didn't open his eyes. Good. The phone buzzed one last time. A final message. Now it has to choose you. The air exploded. The darkness recoiled violently. The reflection staggered backward. For the first time, it looked afraid. What did you do? Aham opened his eyes slowly. Calm. Focused. I stopped being part of it. The world cracked. Shattered. Collapsing inward. And the thing screamed. Not in anger. Not in control. But in fear. Because now, it wasn't chasing him anymore. It was trapped with him. And for the first time, it didn't know what would happen next. The world didn't just crack. It gave up. The sky fractured first, thin lines spreading across it like broken glass. Light leaked through the cracks, but not normal light. Something raw, unfinished. Aham didn't move. He stood at the center of it all, still, calm, watching everything collapse. Because now, he understood something the thing didn't. This place needed rules, choices, reactions, and he had just stopped giving it all three. The ground beneath him rippled violently. Buildings twisted, bending at impossible angles. The empty street folded in on itself like paper. Reality searching for an answer, and finding none. A scream tore through the air. Not human. Not entirely. Aham turned his head slightly. The reflection, the thing, staggered backward, its form flickering, breaking apart in jagged, glitching pieces. You, it hissed, its voice unstable now, layered, like multiple versions speaking at once. You weren't supposed to do that. Aham said nothing, did nothing, and that was the problem. The thing's body jerked unnaturally, its smile flickering in and out. You have to choose, it snapped. That's how this works. Aham blinked slowly, finally speaking. Then maybe it shouldn't. The words hit harder than any physical blow. The space around them trembled violently, like the system itself was rejecting the idea. You don't get to change the rules, the thing growled. Aham tilted his head slightly. Why not? A pause. A long one. The thing didn't answer immediately. And in that hesitation, Aham saw it. The truth. You don't control this place either. The thing's expression darkened instantly. I understand it. That's not the same, Aham replied quietly. The cracks in reality widened. Chunks of the world began to float upward, drifting into nothingness. Gravity losing its grip. The thing took a step forward, unstable. You think you're winning? Aham didn't answer, because this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about ending the game entirely. The phone buzzed in his hand again. But this time, he didn't look at it, didn't react, didn't engage. The vibration stopped almost immediately, like it had failed. The thing noticed, and that's when it panicked. A real panic. Raw, uncontrolled. Pick it up, it said quickly. Too quickly. Read it. Aham remained still, silent. The thing's breathing became uneven, its form glitching more violently now. You need it, it insisted. No, Aham said calmly. I don't. The words echoed strangely, not in the space, but through it. Like reality itself heard him, and agreed. The cracks spread faster now, the sky tearing open completely, revealing nothing behind it, just void, endless, hungry. You're destroying everything, the thing shouted. Aham finally looked at it fully. No. A pause. I'm just not holding it together anymore. Silence. Heavy. Final. The thing froze. Because it understood. This place. This entire system. existed because he participated, because he reacted, chose, feared. But now, he wasn't. And without that, there was nothing left to sustain it. No, the thing whispered, its voice breaking. You can't do this. But Aham already had. The ground beneath them vanished, not collapsed. Erased. They were standing on nothing now, floating in a space that no longer existed. The thing stumbled, its body unraveling at the edges. You need me, it shouted desperately. I'm part of you. Aham's expression didn't change. Maybe. A pause. But not anymore. The thing screamed again. Louder this time. More desperate. It lunged toward him, trying to grab him, to pull itself back together through him. But the moment it touched him, it flickered violently, like it couldn't connect anymore. What did you do? Aham looked down at its hand gripping his arm. Calm. Unbothered. I stopped being you. The thing recoiled instantly, as if burned, its form collapsing inward, breaking, disintegrating piece by piece. No, no, no. The void around them expanded rapidly now, consuming everything, the last fragments of the broken world. The door, the street, the sky, all gone, until there was only them, Aham, and the thing, floating in absolute nothingness. The thing was barely holding together now, its face flickering in and out, distorted, unstable. You'll disappear too, it whispered weakly. If I go, you go. Aham considered that, just for a moment, then nodded slightly. Maybe. The thing stared at him, confused, terrified. Then why? Aham took a slow breath. For the first time. A pause. I'm okay with that. And that was the final break. The thing let out one last, distorted scream, before its body shattered completely. Fragments of darkness dissolving into the void. Gone. Completely. Silence followed. True silence. Not empty. Not waiting. Just nothing. Aham closed his eyes. His body felt lighter than ever before. Fading. Slipping away. But this time, there was no fear. No resistance. No voice calling him back. Just peace. Finally. Peace. And then, a sound. Soft. Familiar. A phone ringing. Somewhere far away. Or maybe, right beside him. Aham's eyes snapped open. The void was gone. And something else had begun. The ringing didn't stop. It pulled him back. Sharp. Persistent. Real. Aham gasped. An air flooded into his lungs like he had been drowning. His body jerked violently as he sat upright. Pain shot through his chest. Raw. Burning. Alive. He was breathing. Actually breathing. Not floating. Not fading. Alive. The sound of the phone kept ringing. Close. Too close. Aham looked around frantically. White walls. A faint antiseptic smell. Machines. A slow, steady beep. Hospital. I'm back. His voice cracked. Weak. Uncertain. The phone kept ringing. He turned his head slowly. There, on the small table beside the bed. His phone. Screen glowing. Vibrating against the surface. Same as always. Same as before. No caller ID. No number. Just that familiar, impossible call. Aham stared at it. Frozen. His heart began to race again. No. Not again. It was over. He ended it. Didn't he? The phone kept ringing. Louder now. Demanding. Waiting. His hand trembled as he slowly reached toward it. Memories flooded back. The doors. The void. The thing. Its voice. Its fear. Its end. Aham's fingers hovered just above the screen. He could answer it. He always had. That's how it started. That's how it continued. A slow breath escaped his lips. And then, he pulled his hand back. The phone kept ringing. Unanswered. For the first time. He didn't react. Didn't engage. Didn't choose. Seconds passed. Then, the ringing stopped. Just like that. No message. No follow-up. No consequence. Silence. Real silence. Aham stared at the phone. Waiting. For something else to happen. For it to start again. for the nightmare to return. But it didn't. Minutes passed. Then longer. Nothing. A knock came at the door. Soft. Careful. Mr. Aham. A nurse stepped inside slowly. She smiled when she saw him awake. Relieved. You're finally conscious, she said gently. You've been out for 2 days. 2 days. Aham blinked slowly. That's not possible. It felt like so much longer. The nurse adjusted something on the machine beside him. You were found unconscious, she continued. No major injuries, but your vitals were unstable. A pause. Do you remember what happened? Aham hesitated. How could he explain it? The calls. The thing. The place between reality and nothing. He looked down at his hands. Steady now. Real. He stopped, then shook his head slightly. No. The nurse nodded understandingly. That's okay, she said softly. Just focus on resting. She turned and walked out of the room, leaving him alone again. Alone. But not the same kind of alone. This felt normal. Safe. Aham leaned back against the bed slowly, his eyes drifting to the phone again. Still there. Still quiet. Just an object now. Nothing more. Or so it seemed. He reached for it again. This time, without hesitation. He picked it up. The screen lit up instantly. Normal. No strange messages. No unknown calls. Just the time. And his reflection staring back at him. Aham studied it carefully, looking for something off. Something wrong. Something still there. But there was nothing. Just him. Only him. A slow exhale left his lips. It's over. For the first time. He believed it. Days passed. Then weeks. Life returned. Quietly. Naturally. Like nothing had ever happened. Work. People. Noise. Reality. All of it felt different now. Clearer. Lighter. Like something heavy had been removed. Something he didn't even realize he was carrying. The phone never rang again. No unknown numbers. No messages. No signs. Nothing. And slowly, Aham stopped thinking about it. Stopped expecting it. Stopped fearing it. Until one night, weeks later, he sat alone in his apartment. The room quiet. Calm. His phone rested on the table beside him. Face down. Silent. He glanced at it briefly. Then looked away. Unbothered. Free. A small smile formed on his face. Because now, he understood. It was never about the calls, or the thing, or the fear. It was about control, about reaction, about choice, and what happens when you stop letting something else decide those for you. The room remained still, peaceful, real, and for the first time, there was no tension behind it, no hidden presence, no waiting darkness, just life. Aham leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and let the silence exist, not as something empty, but as something complete, something whole. The phone didn't ring. Not that night. Not ever again. Because this time, he didn't answer, and whatever had been waiting on the other side, finally stopped calling. Story 2. The house had been on the market for 9 years. That alone should have been enough to scare people away. But it wasn't just the time. It was what happened to the people who tried to buy it. The first family backed out 2 days before closing. No explanation. Just a short message to the agent. We heard something. The second buyer made it one night inside. He called the police at 3:17 a.m. By the time officers arrived, the front door was open. Lights on. Phone on the floor. But the man. Gone. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. No evidence he ever left the house. Just gone. After that, the property became a local rumor. A story passed around late at night. The kind people laughed about, until they drove past it alone. Because no matter how many times it was cleaned, no matter how many times it was listed, it always came back. The same listing, the same photos, the same price, like the house refused to be owned. And then, Detective Seema Qureshi got the call. It wasn't supposed to be his case. At first, it didn't even sound like a case. Just another missing person. A college student. Name, Hassan Raza. Age, 22. Last known location. That house. Seima leaned back in his chair as he read the report. Another one, he muttered. His partner, Adil, glanced over. You've heard of this place? Seima didn't answer immediately. Then, yeah, he said quietly. Everyone has. The drive there was silent. The house stood at the end of a quiet street. Too quiet. No kids playing. No neighbors outside. Even the air felt still, like the entire block was holding its breath. Seima stepped out of the car slowly. His eyes locked onto the house immediately. 2 stories. Faded paint. Windows dark. And that real estate sign still planted in the yard. Untouched. After 9 years. That's not normal, Adil said under his breath. Seima nodded. Nothing about this is. The front door was unlocked. It always was. That was the first thing people noticed. No matter how many times it was secured. It never stayed that way. Seima pushed it open slowly. The hinges creaked. Loud. Too loud. Like the house wanted them to hear it. Dust coated everything. But not evenly. Some areas looked disturbed. Recently. Someone's been here, Adil whispered. Seima didn't respond. He was listening. Carefully. Because beneath the silence, there was something else. Faint. Almost impossible to notice. A sound. Tap. 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 Seima froze. You hear that? Adil nodded slowly. Yeah. A pause. Where's it coming from? Seima's eyes shifted toward the hallway. Then lower. Toward the floor. Toward a door. At the end of the hall. The basement. The tapping stopped. Instantly. Like it knew they were listening. Seima walked forward slowly. Each step careful. Measured. The air grew colder with every inch closer to that door. His hand reached for the knob. Paused. Something felt wrong. Deeply wrong. Like opening it would change everything. Behind him, Adil shifted nervously. Seima, maybe we should call backup. The tapping started again. Louder this time. More urgent. Tap, 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 tap. Like someone trying to get out. Seima turned the knob. Slowly. The door creaked open. Darkness swallowed the staircase below. Thick. Heavy. Unnatural. The smell hit them instantly. Damp. Rotting. Old. And something else. Something metallic. Blood? Adil whispered. Seima didn't answer. Because now, he could hear it clearly. The tapping. Coming from the bottom of the stairs. And it wasn't random. It was rhythmic. Controlled. Deliberate. Like a pattern. Seima's grip tightened on his flashlight. This isn't just a house, he said quietly. It's a crime scene. And they were already too deep inside it. The tapping stopped again. One last time. Before a voice, barely audible, rose from the darkness below. Help me. Adil's face went pale instantly. That's him. Hassan. Seima didn't move. Didn't react. Because something about that voice wasn't right. It sounded like Hassan. But it didn't feel like him. And deep down, Seima knew one thing. Whatever was in that basement had been waiting for a very long time. The basement stairs were narrower than Seima remembered seeing in other houses. Old, wooden, warped. They groaned under every cautious step he took, carrying the weight of history and whatever horror lurked below. Adil followed silently, flashlight beam shaking as he tried to catch the shadows that flickered along the damp walls. Tap, tap, tap. The sound came again. Not random. Measured. Urgent. Almost deliberate. Seima paused halfway down the stairs. The smell hit him in full force. Rut. Damp earth. And coppery, metallic. The kind of scent that made your stomach knot instantly. Stay close, Seima muttered to Adil. Adil swallowed hard. I think someone's down there, he whispered, voice trembling. Seima shook his head. No, that's not right. Someone doesn't make a house this scared. Adil frowned, confusion and fear clashing in his eyes. What do you mean? Seima looked down at the stairs, into the black void below. I mean, this basement didn't get built. Not for living. Not for storage. It was built for other purposes. Adil's stomach dropped. What purposes? Before Seima could answer, a faint light flickered at the bottom of the stairs. Cold. Unnatural. A low hum joined the tapping now, vibrating through the air, through the walls, through their bones. Seima reached into his pocket, pulling out a small digital recorder. He pressed record instinctively. "You never know what you'll find," he muttered. The recorder's red light blinked steadily, swallowing the tiny sounds in its electronic heartbeat. At the bottom of the stairs, the floor opened into a wide, rectangular room. Shadows clung to the corners like living things. Old furniture rotted quietly, covered in mold and dust. And along the far wall, the source of the tapping revealed itself. A series of metal pipes embedded in the floor. From each pipe, small, rhythmic knocks reverberated. Tapping, like someone, or something, was trapped inside. A faint trail of dried blood led along the floor toward a heavy, wooden door at the far end. Seima's flashlight trembled slightly as he approached. The tap stopped the moment he raised his hand. Silence. Absolute. And then, a voice. Soft. Deliberate. "Help me." It came from behind the door. Hassan. Or someone using his voice. Seima froze. The hairs on his arms stood on end. He pressed his ear to the door. "Please," the voice continued. It sounded weak. Frantic. But layered, almost, like multiple voices struggling to escape the same mouth. Seima's gut tightened. He stepped back, pressing a hand to his chest. This isn't natural," he whispered. Adil swallowed audibly behind him. "Do we open it?" Seima shook his head. "I don't know. But we can't just leave him, or whatever that is, down there." The door had no handle. Just an old keyhole. A small piece of rusted metal on the floor caught Seima's eye. A nail. Or a key. He picked it up, brushing off the rust carefully. Something about the shape, it fit. Exactly. Adil's face paled. "You sure about this?" Seima nodded slowly. "Yes. We find out what's inside." He slid the key into the lock. The metal groaned. Screamed. Echoed through the basement like a warning. And then, click, the door swung inward. Darkness inside was thick, breathless, as if the light from their flashlights wasn't allowed. And from that darkness came the sound again. Tap, 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 and a voice. Layered. Multiple. Whispers overlapping. "Help, help, help." Seima swallowed hard. He took a cautious step inside. The air was colder than anything he had ever felt. Frost clung to the edges of the floor, despite the warm house above. "Someone's here," Adil whispered. "Or something," Seima corrected. They advanced slowly. The room was full of cages. Small ones. Large ones. All lined up against the walls. Some open. Some not. Old stains marked the floor near the cages. Rotting food, scraps of clothing, hair. And at the far corner, a pile of old VHS tapes. Seima's stomach turned. He recognized the labels. Tape 1. Tape 2. Tape 3. Dates scrawled in a messy hand, spanning several years. He picked up the first tape. Dust fell from it in tiny clouds. He didn't need to play it to know. This was a record. Of what? Of people. Being kept. Alive. And subjected to something worse. The voice grew louder. "Hassan. Please, help." Different now. Desperate. Painful. Seima glanced at Adil. Adil shook slightly, pointing toward the stairs. "I don't think we can." Before he could finish, a shadow moved. From the corner of the room. Something large. Something that didn't look human. It lunged silently. Seima reacted instinctively, grabbing a nearby pipe. Adil backed up toward the stairs, flashlight swinging wildly. The shadow hesitated. And in that instant, Seima's mind caught the pattern. The tapping. It wasn't just a sound. It was a code. A rhythm. An order. And if he could tap it back correctly, maybe they could survive. He counted the beats. Matched them. Repeated them back. The shadow froze. Confused. Then, slowly, it receded. Vanished back into the black corners of the basement. The tapes fell to the floor. The voices softened. Hassan's voice, clearer now, whispered. "Thank you." A chill ran down Seima's spine. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "No, but at least we've bought ourselves time," Adil replied. From somewhere deep in the basement, the tapping continued. Soft. Waiting. Like it was learning. And Seima knew, with an icy certainty, the house had only just begun. The air in the basement grew heavier with each step. Seima's flashlight cut narrow paths through darkness, illuminating the room's horrors 1 inch at a time. Cages lined the walls like silent sentinels, each filled with debris, dust, and stale memories. Clothing, hair, scraps of paper. Some cages were empty, others too horrifying to inspect. The low hum returned, a vibration underfoot that seemed to emanate from the very walls. The VHS tapes, hundreds of them, were stacked haphazardly in the corner. Seima approached cautiously, his heartbeat echoing in his ears louder than the hum. He picked up a tape, inspecting the label. Hassan Raza, the 3rd of December, 2025. A date from the previous week. His stomach churned. He had thought Hassan had been missing for only hours. But somehow, this tape was already prepared. Adil leaned close, whispering, Do we play it? Seima hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. But another Pat, the part trained to investigate, to uncover the truth, urged him on. Slowly, he placed the tape in a nearby VCR, an old, dust-covered model that looked as ancient as the house itself. The machine whirred. Static filled the screen. Then a flicker. A dark hallway appeared. Hassan. Alone. Or so it seemed. He was crouched in the corner of a room, shaking, muttering under his breath. Please, no. The camera moved slowly, almost impossibly smooth, as if it were alive. A shadow passed behind Hassan, tall, faceless, moving without sound. The boy didn't see it at first, but when he did, he froze. His eyes widened in sheer terror. The shadow leaned close. Impossible angles, twisted body. No face, just darkness. A whisper followed Hassan. Not on the tape's audio, but in the air around Seima and Adil. Help me. Seima froze, every hair standing on end. The tape's volume hadn't changed. Yet the voice echoed through the basement, layering over itself like a chorus of whispers. Adil stumbled back. We need to leave. No, Seima said, voice calm but firm. We need to understand this. If Hassan's alive, we have to know how far it goes. The tape continued. Hassan backed into a wall, shaking. The shadow reached toward him, and the boy screamed. The scream wasn't in the tape alone. It seemed to resonate in the room itself. Lights flickered overhead. The cages rattled. Small objects fell to the floor with sharp clinks. Something in the corner moved. A figure? No, too dark to be flesh. The shadow in the tape, it wasn't on the tape anymore. It was real. Standing in the corner, unmoving. Tall. Faceless. Breathing? Seima's hand went to his sidearm instinctively. The thing didn't move closer. It just waited. Patience. Hunger. Malice. Then the tape switched scenes. The camera followed Hassan down a narrow hallway. One of the doors at the end creaked open slowly. Inside, another basement. Another layer. More cages. More darkness. And Hassan wasn't alone. Others huddled in corners. Eyes wide with fear. Mouths gagged. Hands tied. And standing above them. The shadow, moving with precision, its presence suffocating. The whispers grew louder. He sees us. He sees us. Help. Help. Seima turned to Adil. Did you hear that? Adil nodded, pale. Yeah, it's coming from the tape, and not from the tape. Seima swallowed hard. The realization hit him. The house recorded more than just images. It captured something else. Something alive. Something that could reach out. A sudden crash behind them made them spin around. One of the cages had tipped over. Empty. The rattling continued. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate. Closer. Seima raised his flashlight, sweeping the room. Nothing. Then he noticed the tapes. The stack he had left in the corner moved. Shifted. Tilted slightly. Not by wind. Not by chance. Someone, or something, had done it. Adil's hand shook violently. This is insane, he whispered. I want out. Now. Seima didn't answer. He had already noticed something else. Something more disturbing than the moving tapes. Small scratches on the floor. Not random. Patterned. Leading toward the next door. The one deeper in the basement. The tape still ran. Hassan crawling toward that very door, knowing the horror awaiting him. A final voice whispered from the recorder, barely audible. "Don't let them see you." Seima's hand clenched the flashlight tightly. "I think we've found the heart of this house," he said quietly. Adil's breathing was rapid. The shadows seemed to pulse in the corner, feeding off the tension, the fear, the curiosity. Seima's stomach turned, because he now understood. Whatever was down here didn't want to be found. And the tapes were bait, waiting, for them to step closer, for them to look too long, for them to descend further. And they were going to. They had no choice. The basement's silence returned. But it wasn't empty. It was waiting for the next move. The door at the far end of the basement loomed like a black mouth, swallowing the dim light from Seima and Adil's flashlights. Every instinct screamed at them to turn back, run, leave the house to rot forever. But Seima knew that if they turned back now, Hassan, and whoever else was trapped, would die. And whatever had been feeding off this house's darkness would continue, unchallenged. He reached for the doorknob, feeling its cold bite through his gloves. It was heavier than it looked. Rust and neglect had claimed it, but the hinges groaned like tortured souls as he pushed. The room beyond was colder still. The air hit them like a wall, icy and thick with the stench of damp decay and something far fouler. The flashlight beams cut into shadows that clung to the walls, twisting unnaturally, refusing to be fully illuminated. Cages lined the far walls, larger than before. Some stacked on top of others. Rats scuttled through the darkness, squealing, but not running away. They seemed trained. A low, humming vibration thrummed through the floor, like the heartbeat of the house itself. And then Seima noticed it. The walls. Written on them. Names, dates, words scratched deep into the plaster. Hassan Raza, the 3rd of December, 2025. Anika Shah, the 6th of January, 2024. Don't leave. Don't look. Don't scream. Adil swallowed audibly. "This is insane," he whispered. Seima nodded. "Yes. This is more than a basement. It's a ledger. A record. A timeline of horrors." The humming intensified. And then, movement. At the far corner of the room, a figure stirred. Caged. Weak. Pale. Hassan. His eyes widened when he saw the flashlights. "Help, please," he whispered hoarsely. Seima moved quickly, unlocking the cage. Hassan collapsed into his arms, shaking violently. "You're safe now," Seima said. But Hassan didn't respond. His eyes darted to the shadows. The flickering flashlight revealed movement behind them, too fast to be human. The shadow from the tapes had followed them. And now it wasn't content to wait. It lunged. Adil screamed, swinging his flashlight blindly. The shadow recoiled slightly, almost amused. Then it spread across the room like smoke, filling corners, creeping along walls, slipping under doors. Seima's hands shook as he grabbed Hassan and pulled him toward the next cage. Other victims huddled inside, silent and trembling. Some were children, some barely teenagers. All alive, but only barely. The shadow hissed, a sound like static and breathing at the same time. It surged toward them, and Seima realized something horrifying. This wasn't just a house. It wasn't even a person. It was something that learned. It had been observing, recording, adapting for years. Every visitor, every family, every intruder, it studied them. And Hassan was its bait. Its recordings, the tapes, were lessons. It had been testing, teaching, until tonight. And now, they were the final test. Seima bolted to a cage at the center of the room. Inside were tools, old medical equipment, and notebooks. They looked like journals. He grabbed one, flipping through pages filled with diagrams, scribbled calculations, and names of victims. Dates, times, locations, ritualistic patterns. Adil coughed, shaking. "Seima, we need to get out. Now." The shadow surged again, faster this time. Seima realized the floor beneath them had changed. Metal grids had appeared, pulsing faintly, humming beneath their feet. The shadow paused at the threshold of the grids. Then it dissipated, into thin air, leaving only cold. Silence. For a moment, nothing moved. And then Hassan spoke. They record everything," he whispered. "Every scream, every panic, every heartbeat. They watch and learn." Seima's stomach turned. He realized the truth. This house wasn't haunted in the traditional sense. It was alive, but not alive like humans. Alive like a predator. A predator that captured memories, emotions, pain, and used them. He looked at the tapes, the hundreds of them. It wasn't just documentation. It was a weapon, a classroom, a trap, and they had stumbled straight into the middle of it. The humming returned, louder. The metal grids under their feet vibrated violently. Hassan shrank against Seima. I don't understand. You will, Seima whispered grimly. And then a new sound emerged. From the deepest part of the room. A low, guttural chanting. Not human. Not fully. A rhythm. Tapping. It was teaching them. Forcing them to learn. To understand. Or die. Seima's hand clenched the flashlight. They had to survive. But he knew in his gut. The house wasn't going to let them go easily. And the final door at the back of the inner chamber, the one that the shadow had come from, was about to open, revealing what had been hidden for decades. The true heart of the house. And whatever horrors were recorded on the basement tapes. The final door in the inner chamber loomed before them like a portal to another world. Thick shadows crawled along the edges, as if resisting the light of their flashlights. Hassan clung to Seima, trembling violently. I can't go in there, he whispered, voice breaking. Seima shook his head. We don't have a choice. Whatever's in there, it's the source. And if we don't confront it, more people will disappear. More tapes will be made. More lives will end. Adil's eyes darted to the door. I've never seen anything like this, he stammered. Seima took a deep breath and placed his hand on the handle. Cold metal. And something else. A faint pulse, like a heartbeat, throbbed through the knob. Seima froze. He realized the house itself was alive. And it knew they were here. The handle resisted their pull at first. Then, with a slow, almost deliberate creak, it swung open. Beyond it lay a room unlike anything they had seen before. Walls lined with shelves, stacked with hundreds of VHS tapes. Some labeled with names, some with dates, some with cryptic symbols that made the hairs on Seima's arms rise. A faint red light pulsed from the ceiling, illuminating the tapes like a warning. In the center of the room was a massive metal structure, wires snaking in every direction, connected to screens that flickered with static and distorted images. And on one of the screens, Hassan's face appeared. Alive, but not as they had just seen him. He was restrained, sitting in one of the cages from the basement, eyes wide with terror. Seima's stomach sank. The tapes weren't just recordings, they were real-time monitors. The house could watch anyone, anywhere inside it. A deep hum filled the room, vibrating through the floor, walls, and ceiling. Something in the air shifted. A presence emerged from the shadows, a figure, taller than any man, featureless, with movements that defied physics. The shadow from the basement, but larger, more solid, more menacing. It circled the metal structure, observing them. Seima's flashlight trembled in his hand. He swallowed hard. What is it? Adil whispered. I don't know, Seima admitted. But it's not human. Not fully. It's the house's guardian. Or its weapon. The shadow moved closer, and the screens flickered violently. Images of past victims flashed. Faces twisted in fear. Screams frozen mid-air. Some fresh, some decades old. Seima's heart pounded. Hassan whimpered, recognizing other people in the monitors, people he knew. They're all gone, Hassan whispered. The shadow leaned forward, and a chilling realization hit Seima. This entity wasn't just observing, it learned from fear. Every heartbeat, every scream, every hesitation fed it, made it stronger. It had adapted to every intruder, every attempt to escape. And now, it had them. Seima clenched his jaw. He had to act. Scanning the shelves, he noticed a cluster of tapes marked differently. Control. Those are the key, he whispered to Adil. They control it. The recordings, the shadow, maybe even the cages. Adil hesitated. If we touch them, it could kill us. Seima ignored him. He pulled one tape from the shelf and inserted it into a nearby VCR. Static. Then the screen cleared. It showed the metal structure in the center of the room, the heart of the house, pulsing in rhythm with the hum. Seima realized the structure was feeding off the tapes, the fear, the panic, the terror. He pressed the eject button, pulling the tape out, then jammed it into another slot. The shadow recoiled slightly. It hissed, a sound like 1,000 whispers overlapping, angry and confused. Adil's hands shook. Seima, it's reacting. Yes, Seima said, voice tense. We can fight it, but we have to be smart. Control the tapes, control the heart. The shadow lunged suddenly, faster than they expected. Seima rolled, bringing the VCR down onto the metal structure. The screens flickered violently. Static exploded across every monitor. The shadow shrieked, a sound that tore through the walls. And then it froze. Paused. The pulsing slowed. Hassan's cage unlocked automatically, doors swinging open as if the house itself relented. Seima helped Hassan to his feet. Other victims stirred as well, cautiously stepping out of cages. They were alive, but the shadow didn't vanish. It lingered, observing, calculating, waiting. Seima knew this battle wasn't over. The heart of the house was damaged, but not destroyed. It could rebuild, adapt, learn, and it would. They had survived, for now. But the tapes remained. And somewhere, deep inside the walls, the house was already planning its next lesson. Seima led the survivors toward the stairs, keeping one eye on the flickering screens. Every heartbeat echoed the same truth. The house had learned their fear, and it would remember. The stairs groaned beneath them as Seima led Hassan, Adil, and the other survivors toward the surface. Every step was a reminder. The house wasn't done with them. The hum that had accompanied them throughout the basement persisted, low and insistent, vibrating through the walls, through the floors, through their bones. It was as if the house had learned something from the chaos they had caused. From the moment Seima had jammed the VCR into the heart, the shadow had retreated, but not vanished. It lingered in corners, behind doors, under stairs. Watching, waiting, calculating. Seima glanced at Hassan, whose face was pale and haunted. You're safe now, he whispered. Hassan shook his head, voice barely audible. No, it's still here. I can feel it. Watching, breathing, waiting. Adil stumbled behind them, flashlight wobbling. I can't believe this is real, he muttered. Seima didn't answer. He didn't need to. The house had made its point. There was no disbelief here. Only survival. The basement opened onto a hallway on the ground floor. The house seemed normal again, dusty, abandoned, faded paint. But the silence screamed louder than any noise could. Seima's instincts told him to move fast, but cautiously. They passed a living room, furniture decayed, walls streaked with water damage. Then the kitchen. Cabinets hanging open, drawers empty, the faint metallic scent of old blood lingering in the air. Hassan's trembling intensified. They followed us, he whispered. Seima's jaw tightened. He glanced at the stairs leading to the front door. The exit. And maybe a chance at life. But the house wasn't finished. A sudden gust of cold wind slammed through the hallway, knocking over debris and extinguishing their flashlights. Darkness swallowed them. And then, tapping. Soft. Insistent. Precise. Coming from the walls. The floor. Above their heads. Adil stumbled, panic rising. It's everywhere, he screamed. Seima's mind raced. The shadow had not left. It had adapted to their movements. It had learned how to trap them. And the tapping was its method of communication, or control. He gritted his teeth, moving quickly. They had to reach the front door before the house learned their fear completely. At the doorway, Seima reached for the handle. It was cold, pulsing slightly as if the house itself had a heartbeat. He paused. Hassan's hand gripped his arm. It's a trick, Hassan whispered. I've felt it before. The house, it can change reality. It can make you see things that aren't there, or hide things that are. It wants you to turn back. Seima nodded, swallowing hard. You're right, he said. He forced his hand onto the doorknob, turning it. The door resisted, as if the house was testing them again. And then, suddenly, it swung open. Sunlight. Fresh air. Freedom. They stepped outside cautiously, the neighborhood quiet, almost unreal in its normalcy. Hassan fell to his knees, sobbing. Adil slumped against the car, gasping. Seima scanned the street. No shadows. No movement. Nothing. And yet, something deep inside his gut told him it wasn't over. The police had arrived by then, called by neighbors who had seen lights flickering inside the old house. Officers stood around, skeptical and curious. Seymour approached cautiously, explaining the situation. But when they returned to the house with backup, the basement was gone. The walls were intact. The floors empty. No cages. No tapes. No sign that anyone had been held there at all. Even the metal structure, the heart, was gone. Just dust, shadows, and the faint metallic scent that lingered in the air. The officers shook their heads, calling it a hoax, or the result of overactive imagination. Seymour didn't argue. He knew the truth. The house was alive, and it had let them leave, this time. That night, Seymour sat in his apartment, replaying the events over and over. The VHS tapes they had taken, the control tapes, rested on the table. He knew they contained information the world wasn't ready for. And somewhere deep in the city, someone, or something, was watching, learning, waiting. He shivered, because one thing was certain. The house wasn't finished. It would strike again. And next time, they might not be so lucky. The sunlight that poured over the city streets did little to warm Seymour's mind. Weeks had passed since their escape from the house, but the memory of the basement, the shadow, and the tapes clung to him like a second skin. Hassan was quiet now, withdrawn, eyes darting constantly, as if the shadows of that house had followed him home. Adil hadn't slept in days. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard tapping. Seymour knew that the horror didn't end at the basement stairs. It followed them, learned from them, and it waited. The police had dismissed their account as a hoax. "You're lucky you weren't arrested," one officer had said, shaking his head. The tapes they had taken were locked in a safe in Seymour's apartment. He hadn't touched them in weeks. The red blinking light of the VCR still haunted him. And at night, when the city went silent, he could swear he heard the tapping again. A deliberate, measured sound. Then came the first message. It was written on a scrap of paper, slipped under his apartment door. "You can't hide. We remember." Seymour's hand shook as he picked it up. Hassan and Adil were nowhere in sight. He was alone. Alone with the house's warning. The next morning, Adil called. I can't do this anymore," he said, voice trembling. "What do you mean?" Seymour asked. "I keep hearing it. The tapping. In my apartment. At work. Even when I'm out. It's everywhere. I can't live like this." Seymour understood. "The house doesn't stay in one place," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" "It's learning. Adapting. Wherever its fear goes, it goes. And now, it knows us." Adil didn't answer. Over the following days, reports surfaced in the city. People disappearing without a trace. Homes left abandoned. Children vanishing in neighborhoods where no one had heard a sound. Seymour followed the reports closely. Patterns emerged. Dates, locations, small, seemingly insignificant details, but patterns nonetheless. The house, or the entity, was moving. Adapting. Learning from the media, from fear, from attention. Then came the call from Hassan. His voice was thin, distant, terrified. "Seymour, it's back. And it's not the house anymore. It's inside people's homes. Watching. Waiting. Learning." Seymour's chest tightened. He realized that the tapes hadn't just recorded the horror, they had spread it. Each person who knew the truth became a conduit for the shadow. Each retelling, each fear, amplified it. Seymour knew what they had to do. The tapes had to be destroyed. No copies, no records. Only then could the cycle end. He contacted Hassan and Adil. A meeting was arranged in a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The three of them sat in silence, surrounded by stacks of tapes. The air hummed faintly. The shadow's presence was here, almost palpable, pressing against their minds. "Are we sure this will work?" Hassan asked. Seymour nodded. "It has too. We can't leave any traces behind. No recordings. No memories left to fuel it." They began methodically, tape by tape, VCR by VCR, destroying the recordings. The humming intensified with each destruction. A low, guttural scream echoed from the walls. And then the first shadow appeared. Not a human shape, not fully, but unmistakable. It moved fluidly, a dark wave of fear and intent. It lunged toward the flames consuming the tapes. Adil screamed, backing away, but Seima held firm. One tape left. The heart of the house itself, or whatever fragment of it remained, was manifesting. The shadows circled them, tapping, whispering, a chorus of voices layered over one another. You cannot end us, you cannot end us, you cannot end us. Seima's hand shook as he held the final tape over the fire. He remembered the first basement, the inner chamber, the heart. All the cages, all the screams. All of it ends here, he whispered. The tape touched the flames. Instantly, the shadow convulsed, twisting violently. Screams erupted from the walls, a cacophony of voices, overlapping, desperate. And then, silence. The humming stopped. The air was still. The shadows vanished. For the first time in weeks, Seima, Hassan, and Adil could breathe. They sat in silence, staring at the ashes, exhausted but alive. Is it all over? Hassan asked, voice barely above a whisper. Seima shook his head. Maybe not completely. But the tapes are gone. That's a start. Adil nodded. And if it comes back? Seima's eyes hardened. Then we'll fight it. And next time, we won't let it learn so easily. The three of them left the warehouse as dawn broke. The city below them was quiet, unaware of the darkness they had narrowly survived. But Seima knew better. The house, or its essence, was still out there, and somewhere, in the shadows of someone's home, it was learning again. The city had returned to a semblance of normalcy, but Seima, Hassan, and Adil knew better. The house, or the shadow it had birthed, was no longer confined to a single location. It had adapted, evolving beyond walls, basements, or concrete floors. It fed on fear, and fear could exist anywhere. It began subtly. Strangers vanishing in quiet neighborhoods. Neighbors reporting cold drafts in homes with all doors and windows closed. Children waking up in the middle of the night, whispering about voices in the walls. At first, the incidents seemed unrelated, but patterns emerged. The shadow was spreading, learning from every reported incident, adjusting its behavior, anticipating fear. Seima monitored the news obsessively. Every disappearance, every strange report, was another page in its lesson plan. It had survived, and it was learning faster than they could understand. One evening, Seima's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. We saw what you did. You cannot hide. Fear is everywhere. Seima's hand trembled. Hassan picked up the message on his own phone. You think you destroyed it? We remember. It remembers. Fear is eternal. Adil's eyes widened. It's following us. Tracking us. Using us. Seima nodded grimly. The tapes had been only a partial solution. The shadow had already escaped their control. The first encounter occurred 3 nights later. Adil was alone in his apartment, the lights flickering as he worked late. A soft tapping echoed from the walls. He froze. Footsteps, or something that sounded like them, crossed his living room floor. The lights went out completely. Then the whispering began. We are here. We are always here. Fear is ours. Your fear feeds us. Adil backed into a corner, clutching a baseball bat. The shadow appeared in fragments, emerging from the corners, the ceiling, the floor. It had no face, but its presence was oppressive, suffocating. Adil swung blindly. The shadow recoiled, laughing in a sound that was both human and monstrous. It whispered his fears back at him, twisting them into grotesque forms. He screamed. Seima arrived within minutes. The front door had been ajar, inexplicably, and he had felt the cold pulse emanating from inside. He stepped in cautiously. The apartment was dark, but the air vibrated with malevolence. Adil cowered on the floor, shaking violently. Seima shone his flashlight. The shadow recoiled, then dissolved into thin air. The lights flickered back on. Adil gasped for breath. We have to leave, he said, voice shaking. Seima nodded. We can't stay in one place too long. Not until we understand it. The trio regrouped in Hassan's apartment. The safe containing the remaining control tapes was gone. They had been stolen, or taken, by the shadow itself. It was now fully autonomous. Without the tapes, we have no control, Seima admitted. Hassan's face paled. Then we're completely at its mercy. A cold silence fell over the room. Outside, the city hummed with normal life. But inside, fear was building. Every dark corner, every shadowed alley, every flickering light became a potential manifestation. The first coordinated disappearance occurred the following week. 24 residents in a single apartment complex vanished without trace. No signs of struggle, no evidence, nothing. The shadow had learned to manipulate not just fear, but reality, or at least perception of it. Witnesses reported seeing friends, family, neighbors walking in their homes, then vanishing into walls, floors, or ceilings. Sema studied every report, every testimony. Patterns emerged. The shadow was seeking those who knew the truth, those who had survived the original basement. It was hunting them, and feeding on the panic it created. Sema, Hassan, and Adil devised a plan. They would track the manifestations, document every occurrence, attempt to isolate the pattern. Perhaps, if they could anticipate its moves, they could strike back. But the more they investigated, the more they realized the terrifying truth. The shadow didn't just respond to fear. It preempted it, shaping reality to produce the exact type of fear it wanted. It could invade homes, manipulate perception, twist memories. It was no longer bound by the house. It was everywhere, wherever fear existed. And every new incident strengthened it, expanding its reach, teaching it more about human psychology, resilience, and panic. Then came the final warning. A video appeared on Hassan's laptop. No sound, no sender, just a static-filled recording. The camera panned slowly across an apartment. A figure huddled in a corner. Familiar face. Hassan. The shadow lingered nearby, growing larger, its form twisting impossibly. It whispered words that chilled their bones. We are everywhere. We are inevitable. Fear is eternal. And now, you will teach others. Sema closed the laptop, hands shaking. Hassan's voice trembled. It's using us. Using our fear to grow stronger. To spread. Adil nodded silently, unable to speak. Sema's jaw tightened. We've fought it once, he said grimly. And we'll fight it again. But we need a new plan. One that doesn't just rely on destruction. One that contains it. Or at least, delays it. The shadow was no longer just a house. It was a network of fear, a predator moving invisibly through the city, learning from each scream, each panic, each heartbeat. And the trio understood the truth. This battle had only begun. The city had grown silent in places where it shouldn't have. Empty apartments, locked doors with no owners, streets lit only by flickering lamps. Sema, Hassan, and Adil moved cautiously through one of these deserted blocks. They had followed the trail of disappearances, hoping to find the shadow, or at least understand how it now operated. Every step made the hair on Sema's neck rise. The air vibrated with tension, subtle, almost imperceptible. A soft tapping echoed from the walls, then the ground, then seemingly inside their own skulls. Adil muttered under his breath, voice shaking. It's everywhere. I feel it in my chest. In my head. It's alive. Sema nodded grimly. Yes, and it's learning faster than we can track. That's why we have to anticipate it. They entered an abandoned apartment complex, where reports indicated a cluster of disappearances had occurred. The building smelled of decay and dust. Walls were streaked with moisture, floors warped, and the faint metallic scent, the one Sema had learned to recognize, hung in the air. Hassan's hands trembled. We shouldn't be here, he whispered. There's no choice, Sema replied. We have to see where it's strongest, where it's growing. On the second floor, they found signs of the shadow's activity. Furniture had been arranged in impossible formations. Doors that had once opened now led only to blank walls. Stairs twisted back on themselves, defying logic, creating loops of hallways that led nowhere. The shadow was no longer contained. It had learned how to manipulate reality to maximize fear. Every turn, every step, played on the mind. Adil stopped suddenly. I hear voices, he said. Sema paused, listening. They were faint, overlapping, almost like whispers in multiple languages. They were not just echoes, they were pleas, cries, and warnings from victims past and present. The shadow used memory as a weapon. To survive, they would have to distinguish reality from manipulation. On the fourth floor, they found the first active manifestation. A small room, doors sealed with an unnatural darkness. Inside, faint movement. Sema signaled the others to stay back, then cautiously entered. The room contained a single figure, huddled in the corner. A child, pale and trembling, eyes wide with terror. Hassan stepped forward instinctively. "It's okay, we're here to help." The child looked up, whispering in a hoarse, broken voice. "They watch, always, never leave, never let go." The shadow's pulse intensified. From the walls, ceiling, and floor, the darkness began to flow toward them. It was alive, intelligent, reactive. Seima realized the child's fear was being fed directly to it. He grabbed the nearest object, a metal pipe, and swung at the approaching darkness. It recoiled momentarily, then reformed, twisting unnaturally. Adil shouted, swinging a chair. The shadow hissed, a sound that pierced the mind. It whispered their deepest fears, failure, loss, helplessness. And then, it struck. The walls rippled like liquid. Floors buckled beneath their feet. Seima realized they weren't just fighting shadows. They were fighting a living, intelligent environment. The child screamed as the darkness surged closer. Seima grabbed the child and bolted toward the nearest exit. Hassan and Adil followed, dodging walls that seemed to bend and twist to block their path. They reached the stairwell, and Seima realized the building itself had become a trap. Every flaw behind them was different than they remembered. The stairwell seemed infinite, each step leading to the same floor over and over. Panic rose, but Seima forced himself to think. The shadow thrived on fear, but could be disrupted by action, by control, by confidence. He slowed, focusing on breathing, ignoring the whispers. "Follow me," he said firmly. They moved as a single unit, step by step, refusing to react to the hallucinations. The stairwell eventually ended at a door. Outside, sunlight. The street was quiet, normal, deceptively calm. The child they rescued clung to Seima, whispering incoherently about the darkness. They reached the safety of a car, but Seima knew the truth. The shadow was no longer tied to any single location. It had adapted completely. It could exist anywhere, feed on fear anywhere, manipulate reality anywhere. Their fight had become a citywide battle of perception. Hassan looked at Seima, eyes wide. "How do we stop it?" he asked. Seima's jaw tightened. "We don't stop it," he said grimly. "We survive it. We document it. And we warn others. That's all we can do, for now." Adil nodded silently. Behind them, a shadow flickered in the corner of the street. Watching, learning, waiting. And Seima understood with chilling clarity. The shadow had become a predator without walls, a network of fear, and they were its first lesson in the city. The city's lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows across the empty streets. Seima, Hassan, and Adil moved cautiously, the rescued child clinging to Seima's side. The past months had been a relentless nightmare, escaping the house, surviving the shadow's initial spread, and now tracking its manifestations across the city. They knew what they faced. The shadow had evolved. It was no longer confined to walls or basements. It was a network of fear, omnipresent and adaptive, feeding on panic, reshaping reality, and learning from every heartbeat. And tonight, Seima understood, they would face it head-on. Their plan was desperate. Without the tapes, they could not contain it permanently, but they could lure it into a location designed to amplify fear in a controlled way. A deserted warehouse on the outskirts of the city, its walls lined with reflective surfaces and surveillance equipment they had scavenged from previous encounters. The goal, Seima explained, is to trap it temporarily, concentrate it, and, by time, if we fail, it will scatter and grow stronger. Hassan's hands shook, but he nodded. Adil tightened his grip on a crowbar. The child sat silently, eyes wide, sensing the tension. The warehouse was dark, echoing with every footstep. As soon as they entered, the air thickened, vibrating with the same metallic pulse that had haunted every encounter. Then came the tapping. Soft at first, then growing louder, a rhythm that matched their own heartbeats. The shadow emerged, coalescing into its towering, featureless form. It pulsed, black tendrils stretching toward the walls, floors, and ceiling. It had anticipated them, and it had grown. Adil swung his crowbar at a tendril. It dissipated into mist. Seima activated the surveillance equipment, feeding light and reflection into the space. The shadow hissed, a sound that tore through reality itself. It adapted, shifting form with every attempt to trap it. Then the whispering began. Voices led on voices, past victims, their own fears, imagined horrors. You cannot stop us, you cannot escape, you cannot survive. Seima forced himself to remain calm. Concentrate on control, not fear, he whispered to Hassan and Adil. Every scream, every shadow, every pulse of air was a test. And the shadow learned from hesitation. It lunged. The child screamed as a tendril wrapped around the reflective walls, bending them, distorting the light. Seima lunged forward, holding the child and swinging a heavy chain they had prepared. The chain struck a metallic surface, sending sparks and reflections across the warehouse. The shadow recoiled, momentarily disrupted. Hassan joined in, swinging debris at the edges of the darkness. Adil set a series of mirrors they had arranged in the corners, redirecting the shadows into a concentrated space. The pulsing intensified, the whispers rising into a deafening chorus. Then came the critical moment. Seima pulled the last control tape from his coat pocket, one they had secretly retained. He inserted it into a makeshift player, activating it while the shadows were concentrated. The tape flickered to life, showing the images of the heart of the house, the original basement structure, the cages, the victims. The shadow shrieked, a sound that shattered the walls of perception. It lashed out violently, but the tape acted as a focal point, drawing the darkness toward the center of the warehouse. For the first time in months, they saw it falter. It twisted, convulsed, and shrank into a more compact, unstable form. Seima and the others moved quickly, throwing debris, reflecting light, amplifying fear in a controlled manner, forcing the shadow to contain itself in one location. And then, the tape burned. Flames engulfed the VHS, melting plastic and metal, releasing the concentrated fear back into nothingness. The shadow screamed, a sound that felt like the collapse of reality itself. And then, silence. The air cleared, the warehouse still. Seima, Hassan, and Adil stood panting, eyes wide, watching the last wisps of the darkness dissipate into the air. The child clung to Seima, trembling but alive. They had done it. For now. In the aftermath, the trio realized something vital. The shadow could never truly be destroyed. It was an intelligence born of fear, a predator that adapted. But it could be contained, delayed, and perhaps understood. They vowed to create a network of observation, a system to track anomalies, protect potential victims, and document every encounter. It would not rise again unopposed. Weeks later, Seima stood at the edge of the city, looking at the horizon. The sun was rising, painting the sky with streaks of orange and gold. He thought of the house, of the shadow, of every scream and every fear. And he knew one truth above all. Fear was inevitable. But humanity had the power to confront it, to survive it, and to learn from it. Hassan joined him silently. Adil followed, carrying the child. They had survived the nightmare, faced the darkness, and emerged stronger. The city below pulsed with life, unaware of the horror that had nearly consumed it. But Seima knew it was still out there, waiting, learning, and feeding on those who forgot to be cautious. And somewhere, deep in the fabric of fear itself, the shadow lingered, a reminder of the power of terror, and the courage it took to confront it.